Next we have Mr. DeAndre Fisher from OU.
Well, I should have went before that, so let me just follow up now. Thank you, Jonathan. My prayer today is that I do my best to present to you what God has given to me. I'm truly blessed to sit here and say and tell my story. But one thing that I do want to kind of acknowledge when Jonathan came to me and asked me, where do I think this conversation should start? Why is this conversation about race such a huge issue? I truly believe that this conversation about race has been an issue far more than what we may think. But I do play a lot of the role of this conversation being so relevant now is due to what we see as maybe truly believing that we are in a place in this generation to where this generation is no longer allowing the voice of the unheard and the voice of the oppressed to really be unnoticed. And what now we see is the backfire on what was created to be such a great harmonizing tool, and that's called social media. Now it's being backfired to show what's really going on in the lives of so many people who a lot may not understand. So I challenge you all today to not only look at this conversation as a learning tool and to be able to grow, but to really see what part you play in it. As an educator and someone who works for the university, I look on my day-to-day basis on how I can make sure that our environment at the university is more adhesive, more unified, and then also to really discover what diversity truly means as a whole. For me, when I think about diversity, I don't just think white and black. I think about socioeconomic stance. I think about race. I think about gender. I think about what students identify as. I think about the religions. I think about everything that you can possibly be as a human body and what makes you who you are. That's what I think about when I think about diversity. So I thought about what do I need to talk about today, being in education. Do I talk about the amount of money spent at the jails compared to the amount of money spent in our social economics, compared to the amount of money spent within our school systems? Do I talk about the disparities within our school system, how we label our students even in kindergarten? If one student is not paying attention compared to the other student, he's automatically labeled or she is labeled as a bad student, a good student, a well-represented student. If we talk about what it really means to be a student in the educational system where maybe the parents are not as involved as other parents, and we automatically assume that the parents don't care about them, or maybe that the parents are really just working 2 to 3 jobs and don't have time to go to the PTA meetings right at 5 because they're going to their second job. So when I think about what we can do and the challenges and the labels in the educational system is one thing that I wanted to bring to light today. For me, when I think about this situation and how we can have a conversation, it's just being open to understanding someone else's background. Being open to understanding someone else's point of view. Not necessarily disagreeing, like we like to do first off, but then just sitting down, being quiet, and listening. Is what I like to tell my students at the university. One of the challenges for me working at a university is trying to meet the students where they are. But one of the great things that I love about working at a university, working in higher education, and what I tell my students is that now it is a new playing field. When you come to, and why I promote higher education regardless of where you go to, is because when you go to a higher education institution, it is a new playing field. You are not entering into that institution based off your merit anymore. You have to really make sure as a student at a higher education that you go to that institution and you make sure that you put your own labels on yourself. The labels that I had for me in my personal experience growing up before I obtained my higher education was, he won't make it. He's always talking. He's never paying attention. Oh yeah, he's the class clown. That's me. And I take those labels very seriously because that was probably some of the things that I was. I was a class clown. Love to make you laugh. But now it's so funny, as a special assistant to a vice president, that's what it takes to get the students in the door. It's making them laugh and being able to relate to those students. So I find myself really trying to understand the labels that we put on our students, why so much they're negative, but then we don't look at the positive of those labels. Why it's easy for me to talk to a fifth grader at the same time being able to talk to someone who's 65 and I don't have a problem with it at all. Those characteristics, those personalities were sometimes looked down upon, but now they look positively. So I ask you all as we dive into this conversation about race, not only just think about race, but think about the things that we can do to better improve where I stand in the educational system. And I think that a lot of the times when you look at the labels that we put on our students, we find it very hard for these students to go past those labels. We find it very hard for these students within different communities and different backgrounds to do better, to receive better education, but then also to overcome a lot of the challenges that they go through. So for me, I'll leave you with this. Did you know that 37% of African American students that go into a higher education will only graduate? Did you know that 27% of our Latino community will actually obtain a higher education? Did you know that our Asian percentage of students actually obtaining a higher education is the highest of minorities, but then also the lowest of actually obtaining jobs after graduation? These statistics are really harmful to me, and I ask you as I leave today to really make sure that you look at the conversation about race. Look at the things, look at the privilege that you all have. And a lot of people don't like to talk about what I consider and what I see at the university is white privilege around the nation. That's one thing that I hope that we are able to talk about throughout this conference. But thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.